Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Reed's Read Spider-Man Crawl Space Edition. Please check us out at the SpiderManCrawlspace.com. As you can see here, we are ready to go. We're going to review, of course, Amazing Spider-Man number 62, aka 956, and of course, Ultimate Spider-Man number 11. So we're going to go ahead and get into the next part of the Eight Deaths of Spider-Man, as well as the next pickoff of the Ultimate Sinister Six here. So we're going to go ahead and get that kicked off too. So what did I think on these, of course, issues here as we perch on that too? So let's go ahead and get into that for the full review. Start with Amazing Spider-Man 62 by Joe Kelly and of course Nails. One second here. Having a little issue here. That's one thing about doing live stream. Just sometimes you gotta go to the other one there. There we go. Ah, there work better. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get to the pros, shall we? So let's get on to it with Amazing Spider-Man number 46. There you go. There you go. Spider-Man 40 that thing. So let's go ahead and get into what the little pros are with the pros. So the pros, everybody. So this actually is a take two left over here. We're getting up to where it starts off, of course, with Spider-Man and Black Cat actually breaking into the sanctum for Doctor Strange, of course, because despite everything that happens, he needs to keep going with alive and defeat the regular, scions of Sidorak, which of course, as you know, means actually the sons or children of them too, because basically that's what it means. So it was really nice here too. I do like the fact that Joe Kelly was using the history of Black Cat, considering the history with her and Doctor Strange and how she's doing the thieves, everything. So I really did like the fact that that actually has a reason for this team up. It works a little better too, even though Joe Kelly seems to like the relationship a little bit better. But I do like how this has worked with the years of experience between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange about how they're using and explaining a little bit more about how this is working for it. It actually works really nice, and the artwork really comes off nice. This is really a thing. We're going more of the old thing with Doctor Strange here, going from the goatee to the little Van Dyke kind of look, which I really nice too. It's also very interesting too how we went with the different little areas too, from the deaths and the problems of that here. Because as you know, back in last issue, of course, he was done by being split and destroyed here in the part here, but of course it is. I also like the fact that we actually find out what Norman Osborn's of. When Zeb Wells was ran up here, of course, he was selling off of Peter, of course, had quit Oscorp, and Norman, now free of his sins, we're going over to here. But we find out he's actually shutting down Oscorp here because he feels he's did too much here and who he was, and he feels like it's better to take it off, move on, and give the areas. It's also really interesting too because this also explains a little bit of Peter's severance package about because people were wondering about his mane because last issue he was doing some of this pictures and stuff for Randy for the blog. I kind of like how that worked a little bit better, and it was really kind of cool about how that worked here. So I kind of like how that set up and worked out very well for him. Moving on, though, of course. Also, another thing is too, as the prompts in it is moving on to, of course, a little bit of the cons here. So for the cons, yeah, this is something I had a problem with Norman saying he doesn't believe in magic, where this is a guy who sold his son's soul for money, who was involved in the Gathering of the Five, who himself has been brought back, has actually seen the other thing after, of course, during Dark Avengers, he was dealing with magic and other things else. So, where here he's saying, "Oh, I don't believe in magic," where for the last couple years, and that's one thing that drives me insane here is why it is. I do not like it when writers try to wash the thing. It would have made sense if like his revenge also messed up his memories of what he did and everything else, and it just doesn't work here. Another problem I also had with the story is, of course, a little bit in for the different scions of Sidorak here because they're basically sitting around. Basically, Doctor Strange explains that Sidorak said it so the game would work on him. The problem is he was not expecting Doctor Doom to become the new Sorcerer Supreme, and of course that's being messed around over in the main Fantastic Four book right now too. And basically, they're all sitting around about how they can win. And I mean, we get the main one here with Calix, who's basically the eldest of all the children here, and basically explaining how it got rigged so Doctor Strange could actually beat him for little pieces here. So in a way, it's kind of a sitting around kind of here because in a way it doesn't really work very well because this storyline feels very out of place. I mean, it would work for a mini series or maybe a quick team up, but since we're in between writing teams from the Zeb Wells, John Romita Jr. egg into to what's coming up right now here. This feels just like a placeover. Beyond at least had a little bit more experience in how it works here. Here we're kind of getting the little parts here with Peter is dying, he's having issues too, and of course how he ends up. And when he goes against Solens, who is the most current one, who has the ability to change his size and everything, he basically makes it. You touch me, you defeat me, which is basically they're playing magical tag. Okay, that's actually a kind of cool and very a little bit Stan Lee, Steve Ditko kind of era, which I like. But then, of course, and then how he tricks him, where Peter basically uses his magic to be so infinite and large that there's nowhere he can hide him. And of course, but as while doing that, he finds out touching him basically rips their atoms away, and that's how Peter dies. This kind of like time, we're basically into oh my god, they killed Kenny. Except it's oh my god, they killed Peter again. And then another thing is one thing that's been nice, but then also a curse in disguise is actually the use of the supporting cast member. One thing is several even 15 years ago, the supporting class had their own stories. They had their little things that didn't really revolve around Spider-Man or Peter's lives here. And here, Randy and Shay are basically in there to tell Peter's an idiot. He's doing things that are ridiculous, and basically Peter might just never learn. Also, with the cliffhanger with the sister, which was talking as she comes in, kind of like this evil, like evil little girl, which actually reminds me of some people, Steve Scrose's Return of Dr. Octopus storyline with Tom DeFalco all those years ago. But basically, this is also a little nod to The Shining with the kid on the bike from and the demonic twins and everything to set up the issue. The story has not too bad. I do like it if it was a mini series and as a Doctor Strange kind of mixed storyline, it does work, but it feels so out of place. It just feels so out of place in here. It's like I don't know really what it is. It's like it has nice artwork, it has some other things here, but it just does not quite feel like Spider-Man. It feels like I said, we're in kind of a mini series kind of placeholder, but it's one that's not really catching our attention because it's doing on that too. There's just a lot of problem here. Like I said, I do like the fact they include it, but like I said, Peter and Black Cat broke up, and yet Joe Kelly's like, "Oh no, they're back together. They're acting like this." And then, like I said, the whole science is basically they're rigged to win, but there was a loophole that Doctor Strange is, so they're set to lose out. It feels like, yeah, this storyline is basically just being a thing. And I know Joe Kelly is writing the start of the storyline. He'll finish the conclusion of Last Come Before Ireland and that, and Ellis take over the next two couple of parts here for the next one, since this storyline is heading into, of course, its conclusion in March. Well, happy birthday to me, right? So what do I think about this when it's all said and done? I'm actually going to give it a C. I enjoyed the artwork by Ed McGuinness. The storyline, like I said, does work for Doctor Strange, and it does feel a little bit like classical teen up. And it's nice to see the supporting cast members in there, but basically we're having too much from Norman saying, I don't believe in magic. Peter being called an idiot, and of course the Scions of Sidorak, which has been told is actually a leftover storyline Joe Kelly wanted to do back during his X-Men days, which was almost 30 years ago. I'm glad it's doing it, but they're feel very generic, and like they said, they're basically the daughters of Oedipus, basically sitting around saying who's going to be in charge, who's going to take over when Daddy's out of here. So basically, it's trying to be a little classic Greek drama play with a little bit of Marvel magic thrown in, and it just doesn't quite come together very much. And as we know, Doctor Doom's not even part of the storyline now. He's over dealing with the situation, getting ready for World Under Doom in January. So that's where it is. So it gets a C from me. It wasn't bad, but it's not a series I really would worry about in collection. Moving on, let's head over to Ultimate Spider-Man number 11, the next part into the parts here of the Ultimate Sinister Six. And we will kick everything off right now with the awesome sauce of prose. There it goes. So the pros here. First of all, I really like the startup here when we get Peter battling the inner demons and Mr. Negative. Something that was a problem of the original introduction of the inner demons, or they're supposed to be these well-trained, fighters and assassins that are basically pulled off from the street. That Mr. Negative magically touching them keeps them from dying because they're the reverse of them is mortality dying, but they're kind of supposed to be these trained fighters that he magically fixes. Here it's kind of nice that they're actually just mobster thugs that try to go over here, and they're basically just turned to be evil. They're not always the best fighters, but as Mr. Negative says, there is strength in numbers. I like this version of Mr. Negative. He's willing to get his hands dirty, but at the same time he's not going to do his fighting if he doesn't have to. The way he actually recruits the inner demons that do against, because Peter basically says, well, these are just mobsters, I can fight them. But I like how it gets turned around when he takes control of the bank heist, and basically Peter can't fight these people. These are innocent men and women and children we're basically told like you're not happy or scared anymore. You're angry. You're violent, and it's a really cool person. It gives that nice spin on it. I really like this version, Mr. Negative. I think the best, of course, is everybody's great. Is it continues to be between Peter and Mary Jane. The two of them act really good. I like this as a couple that's actually going through issues. The fact that they're going about like Peter is getting himself hurt, that Mary Jane's worried about him, and he's saying, are we into that point? Is because now we know what the world we lived in. It wasn't perfect to begin with, but are we ready to do that? And as she says, I'm starting to freak out a little bit. It's a nice little thing that actually deals with the early days of when Peter and Mary Jane were married in the main 616 universe about those issues, but it's not as dramatic. And I do like the fact is, even after it's all saying, she's like, do you want to fool around? And Peter's like, oh, can I just take a rain check on it? It's had a long day. I got really hurt. We got to check things out, but we're gonna do it because I love you, honey, and stuff. And I like the fact that they get enter. It's really, really awesome. And I like when actually Peter and Uncle Ben meet there, and Ben basically reveals, "I know you're Spider-Man." It's something we were seeing, especially the way Jonah and Ben figured out Harry Osborn was the Green Goblin, or was, of course, Gwen Stacy. Of course, the bet was Ben figured out was Harry, and Jonah said because of the paper trail and everything, it made sense it was Gwen. So it makes sense. I like this as a little piece here because he's basically saying, yes, I learned what the world was too. I learned everything else. It killed my wife and ruined, Osborne's family. And it's really well done on that too. Cons wise, this was actually very hard for me to go into this. And this, believe it or not, it was the recent review, it was the recent solicitations for the upcoming Craven storyline that actually made me find the negative in this. The Ultimate Sinister Six storyline, it's trying to be a little bit of an updated version of that purse where, why Dr. Octopus brought together the Sinister Six. Each one fought them individually. And here we got in that setup. As we know, the next after next issue, issues 12 through 14 are basically Craven's last hunt or Craven's hunt here. And I like that we're getting to the establishment here, but at the same time it's like how this got put into everything from the storyline feels like it detracted a little bit. I do also like the fact that we actually find out that the Black Cat, John Harding, is fine, but the fact that he is very injured, he's in a wheelchair now, and his daughter is going to basically fill in for him because he's not giving up. And basically, how Kingpin is like, this is not going the way it was supposed to go. We were supposed to take care of Spider-Man, and here, you got thrown off a roof. You just threw a bunch of, innocent people to just beat him up for a beginning and walked away. We're not getting rid of Spider-Man. We're not getting rid of the Green Goblin. You guys are being idiots. And I also like the fact that Mysterio here too in the storyline is actually still holding back. He's not doing it. And Craven now ready to go. It's very interesting. They're actually fighting to go into him. There's also a great little storyline right there with the Mole Man's basically saying, how we're all kind of tripping over each other and we don't know what we're really doing. I like how Kingpin sets it up, but it feels like this storyline, which was advertised to be this big storyline, is really just an individual villain. We could have had this in a little smaller increments and just do each part here because as the cover lied to us, it really kind of did like, oh, here's Felicia Harding of this new Ultimate Universe as the Black Cat. It's like, no, actually, she's just taking her dad's place and she's got everything else. It kind of has a problem there. Also, there's a couple other things too. We get some great little banter between Otto Octavius and Peter about a couple things, but really, I feel like Otto is just kind of there right now. Like, I'm sure there's going to be more to the storyline. He's trying to figure out the tech. He's trying to update some more things with the Maker and a few other things. And we know something bad's going to come. But I highly doubt he is not going to not become Dr. Octopus in the story because we're seeing more of the ego. We're already seeing the rival between Peter and Otto. And even Peter says, you're a smart guy, Otto, but you're kind of not seeing the, as they say, the forest through the trees. And it kind of gets an insulting on him too, especially when he ignores him in this panel. It's a kind of a nice little thing too, but I feel like they're kind of spending all this time to set up Otto to be to be Dr. Octopus. It's kind of like getting fought to the wind here. However, it's not a bad storyline. I really enjoy this issue. It's still probably the best Spider-Man book that is out there right now, and it's doing really good. There's nothing to go wrong with it. I really like it. I do like the Sinister Six. I do like how they had the setup here, and I like how Ben figure out, and then how the end says, like, are you going to be able to do this, Peter? And he says, no, I'm not going to, but I'm going to figure out how to make this work better. And it's a really great responsibility, great power speech and everything. So with that all said here, I'm going to actually give this. I'm going to give this pretty much an A on this. This is a really good storyline. Like I said, a little bit of the Sinister Six and some of the other dialogue between Otto and stuff kind of pulls it a little art here because, like I said, the storyline seems to be a little bit more higher end, but it didn't really go there. So I really like this. It's not it's a really good storyline, and I really do just kind of like how this is all going in with Ultimate Spider-Man. Why amazing? Like I said, feels like it is just once again just traveling around waiting for the new team on here. So, it's not too bad. So, with that said, everybody, sorry about the delays. Things just got really busy and everything else here too. But I'd like to thank everybody else. And if you think of it, of course, please go ahead and check us out at the SpidermanCrawlspace.com for all your reviews and Ariel's too. I want to also thank my fellow reviewers here too who have been picking up the slack the last couple weeks. So I've been a little busy with some family issues. Actually, responsibilities, not really issues. Would have moved out and a couple other things here have delayed this as well as unfortunately it is cold season and I've picked up a couple colds. So I want to thank everybody for that. If you like what you see, please think about liking and subscribing to this. And for all more of your old coast guys, go ahead and think about checking us at the Spider-Man Crawl Space. And I will be back in a couple weeks for our next review. I hope everybody has a wonderful